Hello and welcome to the Street Crime UK YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Today we look at a drug dealer who was caught with 1 kilogram of cocaine worth £100,000, was found to be living a lavish lifestyle with trips to Dubai and expensive designer clothing. Remi Phythian, 26, had been shopping in Tesco in Stockport when officers arrested him for being concerned in the supply of controlled drugs. It was only when GMP Special Operations Team searched his house that they discovered drug paraphernalia including snapbags and scales and over £4,000 in bundles of cash, designer clothes, trainers and a motorbike. Further investigations revealed that Mr. Phythian of Denton had been abroad 16 times between January 2016 and March 2019. Mr. Phythian funded his lavish lifestyle through selling Class A drugs and deposited the cash through the post office. Minshall Street Crown Court heard. The cocaine found in his Mercedes van, which was concealed in a Tesco's bag, weighed 1 kilo and was said to be worth a street value of £100,000. Mr. Phythian pleaded guilty at an earlier hearing to offences of possession with intent to supply cocaine and possession of criminal property. He was jailed for 6 years. Outlining the facts, prosecutor Philip Hall said Mr. Phythian produced a basis of plea accepting he was in possession of the drugs, but it wasn't owned by him and he was storing it to sell on. The court heard that Mr. Phythian was arrested in Tesco in Stockport after officers received information that he was concerned in the supply of controlled drugs. A set of keys for the Mercedes were collected and the vehicle was found outside the car park, Mr. Hall said. The vehicle was searched and in the passenger seat there was a Tesco bag containing a block of white powder. This was analysed and found to be cocaine, which weighed approximately 1001 grams at 77% purity. This was subject to further analysis and which was found to have a wholesale value to between £28,000 and £35,000. If the property was sold in 1 gram on the street, it was worth up to £100,000. Mr. Phythian's home was searched and a Tupperware box was found containing drug dealing paraphernalia such as snapbags, digital scales and tooth-further wraps of cocaine were found, both at 77% purity. The digital scales were analysed and found to contain residue of cocaine, MDMA, ketamine and caffeine. A number of designer clothes were found, including jackets and belts, in shopping bags, and a number of Nike Air Max trainers were also found. A motorbike was found with motorbike clothing as well as a child's motorbike. Prosecutors added that bundles of cash were found in the sums of £60 to £1,800, with the total value of the cash found was £4,175. In addition to that, £120 was found in cash in Mr. Phythian's wallet, along with post office receipt for a deposit of £1,000, the court heard. 2 mobile phones were seized and an examination revealed a lot of messages related to the supply of drugs dated back to 2017, Mr. Wood continued. There was also a debtors list with 2 names and evidence of his own drug use. Regarding his lifestyle, there has been no declaration of his income to HMRC since 2015. Between March 2015 and April 2020, there is an unexplained credit to his bank account with a total sum of £39,000, including cash and account to card deposits £400 and £500 at the post office. Between January 2016 and March 2019, he had gone in 16 trips abroad, including to Dubai, New York, Ibiza and Thailand. From the post office, he had a card activated in December 2019 with £5,400 on the card, which was spent in Las Vegas, Hollywood and New York. The defendant spent at least £10,000 on foreign travel alone. The court heard that Mr. Phythian was living well beyond his legitimate means. He is said to have one previous conviction in 2010 when he was a youth for producing cannabis, for which he received a 4-month referral order. In mitigation, his defence lawyer, Kay Driver, said this was whilst his house and furniture belonged to his dad. The other items belonged to him. The motorbike was his, and he said he had been bike riding since he was a child, Miss Driver said. The trigger to his offending goes back to 2015, when he was working casually, but he had a serious motorbike accident, which left him unable to work or walk for a considerable period of time. This had an effect on him physically and mentally. He stayed home and started using drugs and matters escalated, getting into debt. Mr. Phythian then started supplying drugs to support him and his habit. He still suffers from his mental health issues and is still in pain with his shoulder, and he is on the waiting list in custody for physiotherapy. Miss Driver said Mr. Phythian had remorse for his offending and was said to be relieved once this was all over. Mr. Phythian had paid for a locksmith course to learn a new trade and had stopped taking drugs with the intention to remove himself from that lifestyle. The court heard he has a 20-month-old son and his intention was to get his head down to provide a legitimate income for his family. Sentencing Mr. Phythian to 6 years in prison, Judge Don Potter said, "What you were doing was dealing in harmful and sometimes fatal substances. When people seem to undermine the community by dealing in such harmful and sometimes fatal substances, they must go to prison immediately, and that is your fate." Mr. Phythian of Wars Lane, Denton, was sentenced to 6 years imprisonment. So what are your thoughts about Mr. Phythian? And he went from living the lavish lifestyle as a result of drug dealing, then suddenly found himself in prison where he would go on to turn his life around for the better. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay safe.